Is something wrong, Effie? Asks Cinna.
I don't like the way we've been treated, being stuffed into trucks and barred from the platform, and then about an hour ago I decided to look around the Justice Building. I'm something of an expert in architectural design, you know, she says.
Oh, yes, I've heard that, says Portia before the pause gets too long.
So I was just having a peek around because district ruins are going to be all the rage this year when two peacemakers showed up and ordered me back to our quarters. One of them actually poked me with her gun, says Effie.
I can't help thinking this is the direct result of Haymitch, Peeta, and me disappearing earlier in the day. It's a little reassuring, actually, to think that Haymitch might have been right, that no one would have been monitoring the dusty dome where we talked, although I bet they are now. Effie looks so distressed that I spontaneously give her a hug. That's awful, Effie. Maybe we shouldn't go to the dinner at all, at least until they've apologized. I know she'll never agree to this, but she brightens considerably at the suggestion, at the validation of her complaint.
No, I'll manage. It's part of my job to weather the ups and downs, and we can't let you two miss your dinner, she says. But thank you for the offer, Katniss.
Effie arranges us in formation for our entrance. First the prep teams, then her, the stylists, Haymitch, Peeta, and I, of course, bring up the rear. Somewhere below, musicians begin to play. As the first wave of our little procession begins down the steps, Peeta and I join hands. Haymitch says I was wrong to yell at you. You were only operating under his instructions, says Peeta. And it wasn't as if I haven't kept things from you in the past. I remember the shock of hearing Peeta confess his love for me in front of all of Panem. Haymitch had known about that and not told me. I think I broke a few things myself after that interview. Just an urn, he says. And your hands. There's no point to it anymore, though, is there? Not being straight with each other, I say. No point, says Peeta. We stand at the top of the stairs, giving Haymitch a 15-step lead as Effie directed. Was that really the only time you kissed Gale? I'm so startled I answer. Yes? With all that has happened today, has that question actually been preying on him? That's 15. Let's do it, he says. A light hits us, and I put on the most dazzling smile I can. We descend the steps and are sucked into what becomes an indistinguishable round of dinners, ceremonies, and train rides. Each day it's the same. Wake up, get dressed, ride through cheering crowds, listen to a speech in our honor, give a thank you speech in return, but only the one the Capitol gave us, never any personal additions now. Sometimes a brief tour, a glimpse of the sea in one district, towering forests in another, ugly factories, fields of wheat, stinking refineries. Dress in evening clothes, attend dinner, train. During ceremonies, we are solemn and respectful, but always linked together by our hands, our arms. At dinner, we are borderline delirious in our love for each other. We kiss, we dance, we get caught trying to sneak away to be alone. We are quietly miserable as we try to assess what effect we might be having. Even without our personal speeches to trigger dissent, needless to say, the ones we gave in District 11 were edited out before the event was broadcast. You can feel something in the air, the rolling boil of a pot about to run over. Not everywhere. Some crowds have the weary cattle feel that I know District 12 usually projects at the victors' ceremonies. But in others, particularly 8, 4, and 3, there is genuine elation in the faces of the people at the sight of us, and under the elation, fury. When they chant my name, it is more of a cry for vengeance than a cheer. When the peacekeepers move in to quiet an unruly crowd, it presses back instead of retreating. And I know there's nothing I could ever do to change this. No show of love, however believable, will turn this tide. If my holding out those berries was an act of temporary insanity, then these people will embrace insanity too. Cinna begins to take in my clothes around the waist. The prep team frets over the circles under my eyes. Effie starts giving me pills to sleep, but they don't work, not well enough. I drift off only to be roused by nightmares that have increased in number and intensity. Peeta, who spends much of the night roaming the train, hears me screaming as I struggle to break out of the haze of drugs that nearly prolong the horrible dreams. He manages to wake me and calm me down. Then he climbs into bed to hold me until I fall back to sleep. After that, I refuse the pills. But every night I let him into my bed. We managed the darkness as we did in the arena, wrapped in each other's arms, guarding against dangers that can descend at any moment. Nothing else happens, but our arrangement quickly becomes a subject of gossip on the train. When Effie brings it up to me, I think, good, maybe it will get back to President Snow. I tell her we'll make an effort to be more discreet, but we don't. The back-to-back appearances in 2 and 1 are their own special kind of awful. Cato and Clove, the tributes from District 2, might have both made it home if Peeta and I hadn't. I personally killed the girl, Glimmer, and the boy from District 1. As I tried to avoid looking at his family, I learned that his name was Marvel. How did I not know that? I suppose that before the games I didn't pay attention, and afterward I didn't want to know. By the time we reach the capital, we are desperate. We make endless appearances to adoring crowds. There is no danger of an uprising here among the privileged, among those whose names are never placed in the reaping balls, whose children never die for the supposed crimes committed generations ago. We don't need to convince anybody in the capital of our love, but hold to the slim hope that we can still reach some of those we failed to convince in the districts. Whatever we do seems too little, too late. Back in our old quarters in the training center, I'm the one who suggests the public marriage proposal. Peeta agrees to do it, but then disappears to his room for a long time. Haymitch tells me to leave him alone. I thought he wanted it anyway, I say. Not like this, Haymitch says. He wanted it to be real. I go back to my room and lie under the covers, trying not to think of Gale and thinking of nothing else. That night, on the stage, before the training center, we bubble our way through a list of questions. Caesar Flickerman, in his twinkling midnight blue suit, his hair, eyelids, and lips still dyed powdered blue, flawlessly guides us through the interview. When he asks us about the future, Peeta gets down on one knee, pours out his heart, and begs me to marry him. I, of course, accept. Caesar is beside himself. The Capitol audience is hysterical. Shots of crowds under Panem show a country besotted with happiness. President Snow himself makes a surprise visit to congratulate us. He clasps Peeta's hand and gives him an approving slap on the shoulder. He embraces me, enfolding me in the smell of blood and roses, and plants a puffy kiss on my cheek. When he pulls back, his fingers digging into my arms, his face smiling into mine, I dare to raise my eyebrows. They ask what my lips can't. Did I do it? Was it enough? Was giving everything over to you, keeping up the game, promising to marry Peeta enough? In answer, he gives an almost imperceptible shake of his head.